If you've ever used an AI clipping tool and thought, that's good, but not quite right, well, there's one key reason for that. You see, most AI clipping tools work the same way. They scan your video, they find a moment that sounds interesting, they cut around it, and they hand it back to you. And sometimes that's great, but more often than not, the clip starts too late or finishes too early or misses the setup or cuts off before an important punchline and just feels incomplete. So instead of saving you time, you're spending an hour sifting through 30 or 40 clips trying to find the one or two that are actually good and usable. And here's why this happens. You see, the old way of AI clipping was essentially one tool trying to do everything. In one single pass, the AI had to watch the video, identify important moments, decide where to start and stop, write a headline, evaluate the quality, and assign a score in terms of how viral this piece of content could go when it's in ranking it in the collection of videos, all at the same time. And the result was compromise. Clips that were cut off in the middle of a sentence because it had to optimize for something else or it had to strike the right balance, scores that just didn't mean a heck of a lot in terms of virality. And that's the problem that the new V2 editor is here to fix. And so today we're launching the Vizard Model V2. And the best way to explain the difference between V1 and this new V2 model is V1 was essentially one AI trying to do everything and trying its absolute best. Whereas V2 is like a team who each have a specialized role and specialized instructions on how to handle things, what to look for based on their job. Think about how a real editing team would look like. You've got someone in there who writes the headline and the captions, and then you've got potentially a social media manager who looks at it and rates it of like, hey, we think these ones are going to do well and these ones probably aren't, so we'll run with these. And that's exactly how V2 works. You've got 6 specialized roles, each doing one thing exceptionally well and working together to create something that one single AI on its own could never do. The main noticeable difference you'll see when using this is that every clip feels complete. Proper beginning to hook people in, a middle, and an ending. A self-contained story that makes sense on its own, whether people go to the long form or not. You know, ideally people go watch the full thing, but some people don't, and you want that clip to be complete. And so to take you a step further, here's exactly how it works. First, there's a dedicated role called the clip builder. And this job is entirely focused on completeness. It starts from the opening, it watches through the whole context of that segment, whether this is 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, not just the clip itself, to understand the context of everything. Then and only then, once it understands this, does it send the end point of the clip. If the natural ending comes too early, it extends to the next relevant section. If it runs too long, it can trim filler and unnecessary details to make the clip shorter. And before the clip is finalized, it runs a completeness check. The result is that every clip V2 generates is complete and ready to post. The second big adjustment is how V2 scores your clips, and more importantly, how it explains those scores. As you may have noticed in the past that there's always been a score, you might not have exactly understood why. Because in V1, most clips came back with a score between 8 and 9, which sounds great, but it didn't give you a lot to distinguish which ones were going to do well or not. If everything scored very similarly, and one thing's an 8.5 and one's an 8.4 and one's an 8.3 and you don't have the context around it, then it's hard to know which one to use unless you're like an expert in social media, which most people aren't. V2, however, scores every clip across 4 key sections. You've got the hook. Does the opening grab attention in the first 3 seconds? You've got the flow. Does the story hold together as a coherent piece of content? Then you've got the insight. Is the idea fresh, memorable, or valuable enough for people to actually be interested in this piece of content? And then you've got spread. Is this clip likely to generate shares and discussion? Because for those of you who have been keeping an eye on how these social media algorithms work nowadays, you'll know that shares are so important in all of the algorithms. Each of these 4 categories gets its own score and analysis. So instead of seeing a score like 8.5 pop up on one and 8.8 on another and 8.2 on another one, you'll get an understanding of why it was scored like that. And more importantly, where the clip does really well and where it potentially falls short. You might have one piece of content that's got an incredible hook, but it's not particularly shareable. And V2 will tell you that. And on top of that, it'll show you how to use it and where to post it. And looking at data like this can also give you ideas for future pieces of content that you create. So for example, if you've got a really good hook on it, but the flow of it is just not great, then maybe you re-record that, use the same hook and improve the flow and create a great piece of content. The third improvement is one of my favorites, and that's the viral mechanism tags. V2 doesn't just tell you that a clip might perform well, it explains why so that you can get a better understanding. What are the specific mechanisms behind this clip that make it likely to perform? Now, there are 20 tags across 4 categories. You've got opening mechanisms, things like a question or a bold claim or a curiosity loop that's being opened. You've got structural mechanisms, storytelling, list format, tutorials, before and afters. You've got emotional mechanism, humor, inspiration, shared frustration, surprise. And then you've got sharing drivers, a controversial viewpoint, a memorable quote, relatability, authentic moment. Now, the important thing here is most clips won't actually get a tag. V2 has been built to be deliberately selective, and so tags are only applied when content genuinely deserves it. We're not here to tell you that every single piece of content you make is amazing regardless of if it actually is good or not. We're here to tell you something's good when it's good, and because of that, you'll know. Sometimes you might put something through and there's no tags on it, and that means when you do see a tag, it actually means something. And then one final thing worth mentioning is duplicate clips. Oftentimes, using the V1 editor, you might find that there are 3 or 4 or even 5 clips mentioning pretty much the same thing. It might have just been a slightly different angle or a slightly different length or a slightly different hook. What this did was it led to a lot more time that you, the end user, had to review this content to figure out which one to post. V2 automatically recognizes this kind of repetition and then chooses only the strongest clip, meaning every clip that comes to you will be unique and distinct in its own ways. So instead of having to sift through 5 different clips and try and figure out which one best encapsulates what you're trying to talk about, V2 will do it for you. Now, V1 isn't going anywhere. You can find both V1 and V2 inside the Vizard dashboard because they just suit different workflows. If you need volume and speed and repurposing at scale and you want to pump a ton of clips out there, then V1 is still a great option. But if you're working with podcasts, interviews, webinars, long-form educational content, and precision and context are important to you, then V2 is going to be the best option for you. Fewer clips, but every single one of them is ready to go. If your content lives or dies on the strength of its ideas and its context, the old way was always going to let you down eventually. And that's where V2 is here to fix the problem. Model V2 is now live inside of the Vizard dashboard. If you're not already using it, I'll leave a link down in the description below. And if you are an existing user, next time you upload, try out the V2 model. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next video.